Hello and welcome to Celebrating Simple Life. I'm Kimberly and I've been planning parties and incredible events for the past 15 years. I'm passionate about connecting people, making gatherings purposeful, and making the most out of every moment. Join me as we learn together how to find joy, celebrate the simple things in life, use events to grow your business, entertain with purpose, and have a whole lot of fun along the way. Cheers to Celebrating Simple Life. Today on Celebrating Simple Life, the podcast, I'm chatting with Justine, founder of Justine Marie Studios. She is pursuing her passion in art and offers interior design services, interior styling, and custom abstract art in residential and commercial spaces. She also has an amazing custom product line with home decor, clothing, accessories, and stationery, all based on her original art, with lots of her products being locally produced right here in the prairies. Her pieces are absolutely stunning. She's a graduate of Ryerson University with a bachelor's degree in interior design. She is connecting in the community in so many amazing ways, and if you follow her on Instagram, you are going to be blown away at her incredible artistic talent. She believes in inspiring others to follow their dreams and share their talents with the world, and you are going to be so inspired by our beautiful conversation today. So tune in. Hello, Justine. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
This is going to be so fun today.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Me too.
So we only just recently met a couple months ago, and I was just so excited to follow along and see everything that you're doing on Instagram, and now gets to come to life and meet in person and chat all about business today.
I know, I'm so excited.
Yay.
Yeah.
So you are a creative, and the products and the pieces that you put out are just so whimsical and beautiful. I was just drawn to them as soon as I saw them, and I would love for you to just share to listeners today who maybe haven't heard of you or followed along, or have maybe only recently started following along and don't know your full story, hear how Justine Marie Studios came to be, and how did you get into this world of creativity and art and entrepreneurship?
Oh, I feel like that's such a loaded question, but well, thank you for the kind words first off. I started Justine Marie Studios, also known as JMS, which is also, it stands for my initials, by the way. My last name is Slosher.
Ooh, tricky.
So yeah, not everyone kind of knows that. That's like a little tidbit information. But I started my business in 2015. I was still actually going to university. I was in my fourth year at Ryerson, which is downtown Toronto, for interior design. And I kind of joke sometimes that I'm this over-educated interior designer or designer, and then an undereducated artist. But
how do you meet those things in the middle?
Yeah, and I've sort of infused those two realms together. So I was in my fourth year. I got commissioned to do a piece while I was still living in Toronto, and that kind of... How
did that come about?
It was actually just a mutual friend who recommended me, and actually backtrack for 1 second here. I created a piece just for my own apartment while I was living there, and then one of my old roommates had actually reached out and wanted it. So that was the first piece I actually ever sold. And
cool.
Again, I didn't create it to be sold by any means. That just sort of happened. And then I got commissioned to do that second piece, which was huge. It was 5 feet by 6 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, and I actually already booked my flights to come back home, so I only had 2 weeks to work on it. And
no pressure, though.
No pressure, not at all. However, I think to this day I work best under pressure, and so when I have sort of those really...
If someone gives you a year, you're like, oh, no, I will wait till 50 weeks later.
Absolutely. Give me a crazy timeline and let's make it happen. So I created that piece, and I remember looking at it and painting, and I just thought to myself, if I could figure out a way to make money doing this, I'd be living my dream job. And so that's how it all sort of started.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I moved back home, and I just started creating these pieces, not intentionally to make money off of them or to sell them, but I just needed to get this creativity out of me, and I felt that was sort of just discovering my passion. And then I had these pieces created. There was a local coffee shop that had just opened, and they were looking for a local artist's work to go into it. Fixed Coffee, by the way, shout out to them. Yeah, and they Yeah, they were the first ones that allowed me to display my work here locally in Regina. So that then allowed me to obviously have my work on display and start selling it. And then fast forward to today, I think we have over 30 locations now with my work in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is so amazing. So I know that I'm going to get a lot of questions after this because there's always but how? How do these things just happen, right? And I feel like you alluded to that at the beginning with it was a little bit by accident. Somebody wanted to buy art that you didn't even have for sale. So that's like a cool way of getting. So how did you foster the relationship of, I think there's sometimes the misconception that, oh, when you're collaborating with somebody or somebody's asked you to put product in their store, that then the onus is all on them. Oh, good, you want this in your store, and I'm assuming here I am a service-based business, so not as much for the products that I have out there, but how did you manage to communicate with that and engage so that was actually a benefit to everybody involved, including yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. And none of this happened overnight. It's been a lot of hard work, and me also reaching out to people and people reaching out to me. Not all of my collaborations have been a success.
Right. I'm sure you've received some no's.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's been sort of the beauty of just putting your work out there, is that it's allowed me to also gain a lot of self-confidence. I felt at first it's so nerve-wracking putting your work into the world, especially because it's a self-expression of who I am.
Yeah, it's like a piece of you.
It absolutely is. And then it gets judged, and people, don't always have the nicest comments or things to say about it. And so I think I took a lot of that to heart initially and was really offended if people didn't like my work. And now I'm actually open to all feedback. I think it's great if someone actually doesn't like it and has an opinion about it. And I'm curious as to why they might not even like it. I'd rather someone maybe say something, as to why they might not like it or they're not gravitating towards it versus saying nothing at all.
Yeah, totally.
But that's also taken years to build up that sort of confidence yeah, absolutely. But going back to fostering the relationships, it's been a lot of back and forth, just finding the right people to align yourself with. In that instance, they had reached out. No, you know what? Looking back, I had actually reached out to them asking if I could be a featured artist for them, but they sort of had me on their radar and they were wanting to reach out to me. I just sort of beat them to it.
Yeah, which is what makes for a really great collaboration, right?
Yeah.
Because you're both on the same page. I think sometimes it's hard to know sometimes when to keep pushing and when maybe it's just not supposed to happen. And I think that's when these misses happen, or you'll go into something together with another business or feature something somewhere and you realize maybe that wasn't quite the right fit, and then it's just not really a benefit for anybody when it's not the right fit, right?
100%. Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Wow, that's great. So you got this into the coffee shop and had been reaching out and trying to figure out ways. So what was your initial intention when you initially started versus where you are today? What was your intention in how you wanted your art to be your business once you decided that it could potentially be a business?
Right. Oh gosh. I know, because I'm just trying to think of the whole product line. I had no idea I was even going to create products a few years ago.
So were you thinking that because you got commissioned for a painting initially, that would be the way the work was coming in, that you would keep getting commissioned for things? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then things have just evolved, and we launched this product line in 2018, and maintaining that now and just creating now these feature walls that I do, and I have other collaborations down the road that are just currently even kind of in initial stages working on. So all those things I didn't really expect for them. Obviously I have goal setting and things that I now am going after, and I'm expecting, to accomplish certain things now. But if I look back to even 2 or 3 years ago, I didn't expect a full-out product line to be developed or anything like that.
Which is so cool how that can evolve.
Yeah.
I have experienced that in my business as well, being a service-based business versus having, I guess yours is sort of a mix of service, and mine is too. I have a few products that are more edible style products, grazing boards, things that are consumed, not products that you kind of keep.
Yeah.
But same thing, learning the difference in
collaborating on service versus collaborating on product, and how to find things that work well and fit for everybody involved. But it's interesting to see how product was never something I thought to have in my service-based business either. And so how that evolves and grows, and you start hearing what people are asking for or what like needs people are having, and trying, right?
Yeah.
Like all you can do is try, and you can't know that something's going to be a success.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So how did you navigate the idea of, okay, I'm going to have a product line, because that takes time, that takes money, that takes a lot of things.
If I only knew then what I know now.
So how did you decide that was like, what brought that to light when you were like, oh, getting commissioned for paintings and doing other types of art, not thinking products? How did that come to be?
Oh, I love that you asked this question. So I was at a trade show, I think it would have been 2017, just kind of dabbling, getting my work again out there. I had just created these reproductions of my art because I couldn't physically create a bunch of originals for people, especially, and I wanted them to be at a lower price point because yes, it was great that people were commissioning me to do these original pieces and large pieces. My work is primarily large scale, by the way. So I would have these sort of established women that were purchasing my work at the time, but no one my age was really buying it. And so I just thought, how can I reach a larger demographic of people to purchase my work and get it out there? So I created these reproductions for, $20, $30. You could buy a reproduction of my work. And so I had those at a trade show, and a lady actually came up to me. She said that she loved my work, but she had no wall space for it. And so that kind of triggered this idea, how else can I sell it and sell art in not a conventional way of just putting it up on your wall? And so I thought, why not put it onto pillows? And that also goes back to my interior design side too, where I could create my own pillows that I could use into my projects. So that was where that idea sort of was blossomed from.
Cool.
And then I hand painted one of my phone cases. And I ended up doing a quick little video, or I think it was a story I ended up posting about it. And I then had people reaching out asking how they could get them. And again, I just thought, oh, this was only for myself.
There's only one, and it's mine.
Exactly. And I just thought, this is another product that there's clearly some demand for. Well, why don't I look into this further and try to figure out how I can get my work onto
just a
phone
small
cases.
Little market of phone cases that every human on earth owns a phone or more.
Exactly, right? But I learned through that I couldn't hand paint them because they're such a tactile object that the paint was just going to then chip off or peel off. So I had just, again, trial and error to figure out how I was going to do this. And so I figured out a way to get my work printed onto the phone cases. And then that spiraled into my my contract and collaboration with Jump.ca, who carries them across Saskatchewan.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so just things like that have just kind of allowed me to evolve and then create more products. Again, based off of demand and what people have asked for, what I personally like. I love my scarves. They're probably my favorite product out there. And it's just because I'm a scarf person.
Yeah.
I love them. And so it's just a very cool way to see my work created onto a product that I personally really like.
Absolutely.
And now my artwork is wearable. People can wear it and carry it around with them and put it on their sofas and chairs, and
which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Hey?
It is. It's very
That's
cool.
That's amazing. I love that. That is such a... I was having a conversation with someone just this week about how to evolve and create different services and products within a business, and how to think outside the box in something that is still, I guess, within the industry that you're in, but figuring out new and creative ways. And those are the businesses that you see growing and thriving, are the ones that are willing to think outside the box and go beyond what they thought they were getting into. And everything you're doing just flows with that, even though that scarves wouldn't have been on your repertoire of things that you would have thought of years ago, right?
Exactly.
That's really neat.
Or even thinking of this tech company reaching out to an artist or that type of collaboration you might not think would work, but it totally went hand in hand, and it's been a mutually beneficial thing. So
that's amazing. You're exactly right. Like that, in my mind, even thinking of this, like that would not be the first thing that I would think of.
No.
Oh, artist meets, tech, but cool.
Absolutely.
Well, and it shows too how creative thinking and thinking outside the box and going out of your comfort zone to make the calls and the reach outs and the things that you've done to get your stuff in places comes back. Like that is the way business grows.
Absolutely.
People are not, there is so much out there that if you're going to sit back and wait and be like, well, I know my stuff's good enough, so I'm going to wait for someone to tap me on the shoulder. Sure, that might happen to some people, but the wait's probably going to be fairly long. And if ever, to be noticed, because it's the people that are hustling and getting out there and actually showing what they're capable of that end up with phone cases in Jump.
Exactly.
I love that. So what in owning your business, I guess, and in the things you do with your large scale projects and these product lines and coming and I'm sure dreaming up new things all of the time, what have been some of the setbacks that have come your way, or multiple? I'm sure there's multiple if you're any other entrepreneur in the world. What have been some setbacks that have sort of maybe even made you question whether or not you're doing the right thing, or that have propelled your business in a different or unique direction, or made you had to pause to think about where you're at?
Yeah, I think that's the reality of being an entrepreneur, is that there's this, you're always constantly trial and erroring things out and seeing what works and what doesn't work, and having these setbacks. And then when they don't work, like picking up the pieces and trying something else, right? I think we briefly touched on collaborations that just weren't a good fit or didn't really work. And I'm more cognizant of those things now. I kind of listen to sort of my gut feeling, and if things just don't really feel aligned, then I will, politely decline those now, versus just taking on everything. When you first start out, I was just a yesaholic. I just said yes to everything because I needed just to get my work out there and for people to recognize it or see it, right? So yeah, I'd definitely say certain collaborations. I've also sent my products off to influencers that never did do anything with it. And so, that just wasted sort of money and zero exposure. Like there was it was just like a lose-lose for me. But it allowed me to realize, okay, I didn't have a contract in place at the time. Or just creating even products that just didn't really work or move, or just even certain styles that I personally really like, but yet the consumer doesn't really purchase or really like as much as I do. So sometimes I'll put a product out there, a certain style that I personally, it's just not my personal favorite. Yes, I've created it, so I like it and everything, but I just wouldn't necessarily be like gravitated towards it. And yet the consumer loves it. And they end up purchasing more of it. And so things like that, it's so interesting to me.
Like how trial and error, sort of, hey? Yeah,
exactly. Or you see like the amount I've just recently, I was like, oh, wow, there's a lot of money that was in the abandoned cart.
Right.
And so just things like that. There's like, okay, I have so much to still learn and work on to be able to grow, especially the product line itself. And then, just getting more effective and more efficient with the work in general.
Which is kind of part of the joy and part of the stress, isn't it? I find that there's it feels really good to be able to solve a problem for yourself when you see a problem. It doesn't feel good in the moment. Like having the problem doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
But being able to solve that problem and then see how it could be better is part of what keeps me excited as an entrepreneur. Like solving those things and figuring it out and back to the drawing board, even though sure, it'd be great for every single idea you have to be a home run. Sure, great. But what would you learn? Really, like, I guess, yay, everything I touch is gold, but that's just not the reality of it, right?
Yeah.
So all those lessons just keep coming back to making every single next thing just that much better.
Yeah, and you know what? It's also allowed me to really appreciate the dream clients or the people that really appreciate my work And the collaborations that just seem so effortless, those ones I just feel so blessed to get those ones now, because I've realized it's taken a lot of work.
It's not always that way.
No, and there's definitely been, just certain clients and things that just, they just weren't really good fits for, I don't think, either of us, kind of thing. So,
well, and usually, in my opinion at least, usually if you're feeling it, the other person might be feeling it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're so right. I feel like when you are wanting to grow a business, it is so easy to feel like you need to say yes to lots of things, but yeses doesn't always equal good growth.
Exactly.
And I heard this quote, and I'm trying to remember, I think it was maybe on a Rachel Hollis podcast that I was listening to, where she said, saying yes to anything is saying no to something else.
Mm-hmm.
And that really resonated with me, because I feel like it's always the no that we're worried about saying. But if you frame every yes in your head as a no to something else, then you're really not saying no when you're saying no. You're saying yes to something else. You're choosing something else that's better, And that really resonated with me, because it is so hard sometimes to always feel like, am I listening to my gut in the right way? Like, is this the right thing? Am I just feeling like I don't want to do this for the wrong reasons or the right reasons, or like whatever? Why am I not feeling this? But the more you can trust that, and if there is something that's like no, to just not ask questions and just go with it, because that probably means there's a yes somewhere that you aren't going to be able to say yes to, because you've said yes to something else that you maybe shouldn't have.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and it, more than not, at least in my life, has like almost always come back to bite me when I have said yes to something that I know that I should have said no to. But sometimes I think it's also a part of just like being intuitive, but also not having so much other noise around in your life that you can't hear those little signs or those little feelings that get muted by a lot of the noise.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. And I had a friend that told me one time to leave space in your life. And this really resonated with me, because I used to be someone that would just jam pack my schedule. And by all means, I'm definitely not perfect at this. I still put too much on my plate oftentimes.
But it is a roller coaster.
Yeah. But I think as soon as she mentioned that to me, and then I started leaving these gaps in my schedule. And it's interesting enough that then these opportunities started to come my way. And then I was actually able to say yes to them because I had available space for them.
And it's so true. And it feels counterintuitive sometimes, because you're like, okay, well, the meetings and the appointments and the bookings and the things that are in the schedule are to do exactly that, right? They're to do that. But when there isn't any time, I find sometimes even if I have back-to-back meetings, and I haven't had a chance to just process what the first meeting all needed from me, or what I needed to decide upon, or is this a good fit or not a good fit, and then I jump right into the next thing. It just doesn't give due diligence to what that was supposed to be, and it kind of just throws me off and doesn't leave me room.
Exactly.
To
even regroup your thoughts even from that last one.
Yeah, it's like when you go to a conference or a workshop or something, and you like take all of these notes, and then they sit on your desk, and all of a sudden 3 months later you're like, I have not even gone through, I still am meaning good intentions, real good intentions, to go through all these things, but you're not really giving that the time and care and what was needed from it. You're sort of just going through the motions of doing what you're doing, but not actually letting it do for you what it could do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I feel like I'm saying this to myself as much as I'm saying this out loud. Of reminding myself to give space. That's such a good way to look at it, to leave space, leave room for opportunities to knock.
Exactly. And if you do just have those jam-packed schedules, you're ultimately going to have to say no to those opportunities that come your way, because you won't have the space for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So that you leave room for these great things, not just okay things.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
As you know, gathering and connecting people together is one of my favorite things. For years, as I've planned events or entertained friends and family in my home, I'm always on the lookout for ways to make it simple and beautiful, but also unique and memorable. Every time you spend time connecting and making it an experience, incredible things can happen. A custom grazing board is a great way to save you stress when entertaining and have delicious, beautifully presented food delivered right to your door. I want you to be present and enjoy your gathering as much as your guests. Another fun idea that I've just started to offer is you can book one of my Gather and Graze soirees in your home or office to connect with friends, host a girls' night, or a team building event with your colleagues. For only $49 a person, all of the sweet and savory charcuterie will be delivered right to you, and each guest will get to design and create their very own grazing box to eat together or take home to enjoy later. This is such a fun and unique way to hang out, eat, drink, and try something new. And just for listening to Celebrating Simple Life, the podcast, you can get $25 off your first Gather and Graze soiree with the code GRAZING25. That's an incredible savings and a great reason to book your date today. Go to celebratingsimplelife.com, click Grazing, and add the Gather and Graze soiree to your cart and use the code GRAZING25 because today is a great day to celebrate.
So how do you find, so you, like myself, are a solopreneur, I guess is that the term that everyone's using these days? Where, I mean, I have people and certain contracts that help me with certain aspects of my business, but I am a one-woman show in regards to the actual business. I don't have staff and employees and that type of thing, which is similar for you. And so what do you find in doing that? It can feel very lonely and isolating sometimes, even though it's by choice that is how I have my business set up right now. It could be different, but I like it this way. But it does have a sense of loneliness sometimes in when good things happen, there isn't somebody right there to celebrate with it. And when really bad things happen, I'm like, am I talking to myself at home, telling myself all these bad things that were happening and not really having anybody else sort of speak their insight to it, which is when you're like, phone a friend or your whatever comes up. How do you stay motivated and connected in your industry and just in business in general, living the life as a solopreneur?
Yeah, I think it comes down to surrounding yourself with really good people. I am part of a mastermind group, and it's amazing to sort of bounce my ideas off of those people and just have also really good family and friends that I can talk to with even regards to maybe launching a new idea or product that needs to sort of just stay confidential before it actually gets released.
Your own little test group.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I can definitely agree with that. It can be sort of isolating sometimes, which is good and bad. I find I actually love to just paint by myself. I don't really like being watched when I have had those situations. I've done live paintings for different events or fundraisers and things like that. But it's very odd to me to have people watch me kind of do my thing then, right? So I actually prefer to just sort of be on my own when I'm in those sort of situations or creating certain work. But I also set up a lot of different sort of meetings and collaborations with people. I work with designers and builders, and I just have a bunch of different people that I'm in constant communication with that are also helping me and working behind the scenes too. So that has allowed me to...
Well, because of the relationship you've built with them, right?
Yeah.
So I want to dive into this just a little bit because I know that people listening, it's always the questions that I get, but how? How do these things come about? And I think one of the themes that keeps coming up here that I want to dive into a little bit more is just the art of collaboration. Because I think that is a term that is a little bit overused, to be honest. Like, it's like a very confusing term for some people because it can mean a million different things. It doesn't just have one definition of how a collaboration works. Really, it's doing something together with somebody else would really be the beginning and end definition of it, and that could go 1,000 ways, right?
Yeah.
So I think there is some confusion about how... I think some people feel like they're spinning their wheels when it comes to collaboration, and I know I have had times where I have felt like that as well, and it has taken me a while, and still is a process of evolvement, of understanding what are going to be the right and best fits for me, and sometimes you have to have wrong fits to know what fits right.
Mm-hmm.
But initially, years ago, when collaboration started to become more of a thing that people were talking about, I feel like it's an extension of marketing, but it's using a different word for it. And I think there's confusion around that. Like, when I started in business 15 plus years ago, collaboration was not a word that was really used. There was words used like networking. There was word, which is still used today, which is a different thing than collaboration, but that was more so what it meant to, like, have associates in the industry. Didn't mean I was reaching out to a business and saying, how can we work together? It just kind of was different, and that wasn't what happened. And it wasn't that you couldn't associate with your competitors or different things, but there was way more of the feeling of, I don't want to give this information up because we don't want to spill our business's secrets to the competition, versus how I feel now. And maybe this is just the evolvement of growing as an individual and in business too, but seeing how powerful collaboration can be, and how there are ways that sometimes it isn't powerful, sometimes it isn't great, and that was the wrong fit, but when it is the right fit, how it can work. So I would love your thoughts on what would your process be, if you don't mind sharing, when you have seen somebody on Instagram, because in my opinion, that's sort of generally the initial first thought. Like, you just can't know everybody in the world.
Right.
Social media is the reason why we know that these businesses exist. You've either followed a blog, their website, their social accounts. You're not traveling to every single city, state, country, continent in the world, being like, oh, good, I just met these people organically on the street, and now we have this cool business network, which would be a pretty cool business.
It would, actually.
to be continued. All that to the repertoire of future ideas. But yeah, so like, obviously social is the way that you're initially seeing it, even in your own city. Like, Saskatoon, Regina are the biggest cities in Saskatchewan, but even that, at 300,000-ish or so people, that's a lot of people to meet. I do not know every single human being in my city, so social is the way. So how do you find when you're scrolling on Instagram, you're looking at whatever, and something catches your eye? What catches your eye, first of all, and what would go through your head prior to reaching out to somebody?
Okay, well, this is actually a really great question, because I'm in the process of reaching out or creating this pitch package for my dream clients, if you will. And so the other day I was actually just scrolling on Instagram, and I came across this jewelry company, had no idea who they were or anything. And there was this ring on there, and it was just so beautiful. It was so stunning. It really just caught my eye. And so, of course, I went to their page, had to kind of check out the rest of their collections and items and things like that. And then I then discovered they're actually in Southern California. And I love California. It's just my happy place.
We have had this discussion before about how warm climates were meant to be where we live, but unfortunately right now that is not the case. But to be continued.
We both love water. That's
right.
The connection to water. Yes. Oceans. Yes. So then that just had me thinking, like, oh my gosh, how cool would it be to maybe reach out to a company like this and either do some sort of, maybe I do a wall for them, or maybe I create some sort of product that's, infused with my inspiration and their inspiration, or something along those lines. So I'm sort of in that process of nailing down my sort of dream clients, if you will, or people that I just think would be a really cool fit to create something that would be mutually beneficial for us. There's definitely other companies that I can think of too that are on my radar, if you will.
So so in thinking of that's so funny, because this was not something that we had discussed talking about.
No.
But I think that it keeps being brought up in lots of different conversations that I'm having with people, and just in my own thought process of running a business. This is something that has to be thought about, because that is how businesses grow. You can't just be blinders on, just doing just your own thing. It takes community, and it takes talking about what you do in order for people to understand more what you do and to grow and to work together on stuff. So as you are dreaming up your dream client and writing things down and like making notes about what it is, what kinds of questions were you asking yourself to determine whether or not, how you would be able to very much easier say yes or no, like we were talking about before, than just always yes, whether it's a good fit or not?
Yeah, okay, so Danny's Vintage Designs, she actually just recently reached out to me. Well, it's a couple months ago, but yeah, within the last quarter anyways. And she asked if I would collaborate on a piece of furniture with her. And I just thought of her initially as soon as you asked this question, because that was a hell yes to me.
Right.
That was an easy yes, because as soon as I looked at her work, I just knew that I was really drawn to it. We both have similar strengths and weaknesses, but we create still very different, we work in completely different mediums. She works on furniture. I don't work on furniture.
Totally.
Like, that's her expertise, not mine. But if she could sort of create my canvas and then I work on that, we just thought, like, how cool would it be to create this one of a kind item that no one else is going to be able to create, because it's taking both of our sort of skill sets and creating something very unique and different than anything else that's on the market. So that's a collaboration. I'm actually going to be working on it in the next few days here.
Cool.
So I'm really excited about it. But that is just something that I knew, it just felt so right and aligned, and I got really excited about it. So I think it's also smart not to just initially say yes to everything, especially if it's brought to you and you maybe get excited initially about it, but don't take the time to really process it.
Right.
But I knew even after a day or two, I was still so excited about it, and I'm still really excited about it. I haven't even worked on it yet.
So how, on the flip side then, so when you are being approached by somebody that's different, because you weren't actively looking for that, but you were able to do your research and due diligence to decide if it's a fit, yes or no. When you are the person that is reaching out and looking ahead, which I think is more often the case, that people are finding, like, putting themselves into those shoes to understand how that works.
Yeah.
What do you, so like the jewelry company, for instance, that you used as an example, that's a great example. So you're scrolling along, you see something that really catches your eye. What would your next step be in professionally but organically, I guess, reaching out in a way that has the potential to lead to the most success, since this is something you're already saying yes to yourself. You've said, yes, this could be a fit for me.
Yeah.
And it's really not up to you. It's up to them to also see the yes in it. And if theirs isn't a yes, then c'est la vie. That's kind of where it ends, unless you choose to be persistent and see where it could lead. And that's when the decision kind of has to be made of how persistent is too persistent before you're like, no, this is just not a fit or whatever. So what would your strategy be? What for you? And I know there's not a one size fits all to this by any means, but I think it's interesting to hear how other people go about doing this as a way to share ideas and things for people that maybe haven't done it before, who are trying to grab the courage to make the ask.
Okay, so I would say making it personalized and reaching out to those people in a very sincere and authentic way. I think that we're all just completely bombarded with tons of emails and ads, and
like those emails you get from marketing companies that are like, your website could really use an overhaul.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I've had 8 of those in the last week.
Right? And I'm like, I get it. They all just have a job to do. I don't hold that against them. Everybody just needs to work for a living, and this is what they're told to do.
Exactly.
Or choose to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing about it feels authentic.
No, and just we receive so many flyers and just things that are just, mass printed or just mass sent out.
Yeah.
And so my approach is actually to just keep it really personalized. Like, reach out to those companies and say exactly, like, this is who I am. This is what intrigued me to, reach out to you. And I think that we would be a really good fit because X, Y, and Z. I'm really laying that out.
I've actually looked into your work and love what you do, not, I have no idea who you are. This is just a random email.
Exactly. Yeah. Because you have to think about it in their shoes too. How would you want to be approached?
Yeah. Well, that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah. That's how I think about it anyways when I reach out to people, is that if it's just going to land at the reception desk and get tossed in the garbage, it really didn't come across in the right way then, right? It didn't make enough of an effect or really stand out enough. But if it's like this handwritten letter or something that shows, oh wow, this person really did their homework on me.
Yes,
and
like
they really
to detail.
Yeah, they really want to work with me. That's going to allow you to stand out so much more than the mass produced stuff that's just getting sent their way every day.
Totally.
Yeah.
So then when you've reached out, and once a collaboration has been decided, so furniture, for instance, cool piece, you guys both agreed that this is something that would be great together.
Yeah.
You mentioned before that you had some experiences where things maybe hadn't gone in the best way, and maybe you hadn't done your due diligence on your end, and things just didn't go the way that you had assumed in a perfect world they would go.
Yeah.
So now, do you find that setting it up more professionally where both or multiple parties, whoever's all involved in the collaboration, all has stuff in writing, that has made a difference in just sort of the expectation versus, or what's your thoughts on that?
Oh, that's a really good question. I have done it both ways, where it's been, very professional. There's a contract in place. We have to sign it and go over everything and mutually agree on what's, in writing. But I've also done it in just a very casual sort of way where we just kind of wing it, we go for it, and hopefully it works out kind of thing. So, it really, I think, just ultimately comes down to the type of collaboration. If you're working with a larger company that's much more established or has like that just team established, or HR, things like that, to have those processes in place, then absolutely, I think contracts are always going to be a good thing just to make sure everyone's aligned and on the same page.
Yeah, totally.
So I would definitely say, even if it is a smaller collaboration, a contract is always a really good idea.
Well, it's so easy for little teeny tiny things to just turn into unmet expectations without it even meaning to be, right? And if you aren't both honest and communicating about it, it can turn a totally basic situation into something really not great really fast.
Yeah. So I would say communication is key, and just making sure that everyone is on the same page.
Well, and usually when you are feeling like the alignment is right and it's the right fit, that does seem to come more effortlessly, in my experience at least, versus the ones where you're like, maybe I'm already having a nudge that this isn't the right thing to do, and then as it moves forward, the nudges are more and more, and sometimes you're so far in that you're not sure if there's a way to really back out, and then you go for it anyways, which is a whole nother episode, but so I think you're right, like just listening to your gut, and then it's always your choice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love that.
You live and learn too. Like the worst thing that can happen is a collaboration doesn't really go well, and you learn from it, and you move on, and you align yourself with even better ones to come.
Right, which can only get better once you learn, again, what you don't want or what doesn't work.
Exactly.
Oh, I love that. So I always get questions about wanting to know the real inside scoop of guests on the show. And we're talking about business a lot and talking about just life in general, but knowing what Justine's day looks like and how life goes versus just sort of life as a business owner. So what is one thing that you do in the morning that sets your tone for the day? Do you have something that you do?
Yeah, okay. Well, I always make coffee in the morning. Yes. But I've just recently started to do this, and it's so great. I write down my dreams. So this is actually Carrie Capel, who I know you've recently interviewed. She reminded me to start doing this again, and it's it's just been such a game changer for me.
So you're writing down like your hopes and goals and dreams of what you're wanting to have happen, not like what you dreamt about on the night.
Yes, what you yes, exactly. Yes. Your goals, and then you 10x them. So I write down 5 every morning, and sometimes they'll be repeated. So sometimes they'll be the same thing that I wrote maybe a day or two ago, and then new ones will come up as well. And so when you write down the dream, then you have to 10x it.
What does that mean?
So that means that you have to think. It allows you to just dream so big.
Oh, I understand. Like just multiply it
by 10. Yeah. So say, we'll use numbers for an example because that's easier to go off of. Say I want to make 100,000. Well, then you 10x it and you say, no, I want to make 1 million. Right? So that's just a number example, but there's different ways of going about it. And so it allows you just to you dream big, and then you have to even dream bigger beyond that.
Cool. And
Yeah.
what a mindset to start the day in, right? Versus negative mindsets that would not be sort of attracting those types of things back to you, right?
Yeah,
cool.
exactly.
I love that.
And this is a Mel Robbins thing, by the way, too. So
Okay.
I believe you can go on her website and print off these sort of templates.
Oh, neat.
So you can, just
Cool.
write them out every day.
Okay, well, I'll find it and I'll tag it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question was, what's your coffee order? And so you already said that you make coffee in the morning. So are you a black coffee girl, or what's your coffee?
Okay, well, if I order it from somewhere, then I'll usually order an Americano misto.
Me too.
Yeah.
What a drink.
Yes.
And if you're at home, then is it just black coffee that you make? Like just regular coffee?
Yeah, if it's good coffee, I just drink it black.
Yeah, agree. If it's not good, it needs more cream.
Yeah, exactly.
Love that. So when you're out and about for the day, what is one thing that you always have in your purse?
I should dig through my
Should we
purse
dig
right
through
now.
it? Yeah.
I'm trying to think, like, the typical things that everyone has, like, their lip gloss and sunglasses, things like that, pens. But I guess something that's unique or different that not a lot of people have, I always carry a gold pen or a gold marker.
Oh.
Yeah, because I sign everything in a gold marker. I've only ever been asked for my autograph once in my life.
How exciting.
But yeah, I always, that's sort of my signature thing, is I always have a gold pen or marker. So even when I'm writing up it's more so when I write out my labels, to be honest. Yeah. And I'll just have a gold pen on me to be able to write out my labels. If I'm out and about replenishing artwork in the city, or if I haven't signed a piece yet, because I usually deliver my pieces to my clients, and then I ask them which way they want it orientated to go on their wall. And then once I know that, I'll usually sign the edge of the canvas.
Right.
So I gotta have my gold marker with me.
And I feel like that's comes back to you times 10 your dreams, where you're like, famous artist. Carry my gold marker. I'm going to be a famous artist times 10. Yeah.
There you go.
I love that. What is one thing that you do to self-care and protect your mental health and just life in general, not even just as a business owner, that's a whole nother piece of it, but just life in general is busy and stressful. What is something that you do for yourself?
Yeah, I really listen to what I can handle and when I need a break. Because I'm just a go-getter. I just kind of go all the time. But I find sometimes I just need to completely shut everything off and, just recharge my batteries. So the ways I do that, I go to yoga, or I'll go and work out, and that's just kind of a mental break for me.
Absolutely.
It's not even yes, it's great for the physical aspect of it, but it's more so a mental break where I don't have my phone around or on me for a full hour.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. It's amazing. And so I'll also, I go for massages whenever I need to, especially because I hold a lot of tension in my arm that I paint with, and just my shoulders. It can be physically exhausting when I'm working on walls for days. So I do that. And then I also paint my nails, which I find is just a thing. They're not done right now.
I love that.
But yeah, and I actually just like doing them myself.
And do you just use regular nail polish at home?
Well,
or
I
do you
have
use, gel polish? Or?
Yeah, I have gel polish, or I use the UV machine or
That's
whatever.
That's what I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. I used to always get my nails done years ago, and that was my thing. And it made me feel so good, even though it was it felt like a very indulgent thing to go get your nails done.
Yeah.
And there was other ways I could have been spending that money, but it felt so good.
Yeah.
And then I stopped for a number of years. And I missed it. Every day I missed it. I would look at them and be like, I miss my nails. And then I did the same thing. I got the UV light.
Yeah.
And for the amount of time that it took me to drive to the appointment, to have the appointment, to schedule the appointment, and all of that, it was a quarter to half the time of that to just do it myself.
Yeah.
And I'll listen to a podcast.
Yeah.
Or just whatever. And then my girls will get their nails done and we'll all do nails. And it's just...
And you feel more put together, don't you?
Yes. You totally do. And it's when I don't have... my nails, because I usually find it lasts for about 5 to 7 days of them looking respectable. And then I'm super bad and I peel.
Oh my god, so do I.
It's so bad.
Oh, I can't believe I'm admitting that.
This is confessions time. And Lucia, my daughter, she's she notices now, and she she also picks her own nails. And
Oh,
we're trying to
jeez.
break.
Yeah.
She's not wearing gel nails, obviously, but we're she's picking her nails. So then she'll see mine starting to lift, and she's like, Mom, I just have to pick those nails. So sometimes I'll be guess what's ready for you? This is like really dishing confession time
It
here.
really is. I know.
That's so funny. I do that so too, but
Yeah.
I agree. That's a great suggestion, nail painting.
Yeah, I love it.
Easy to just like...
It's mindless.
Yes.
And then you feel like a woman after.
You do. You feel like a woman. Totally. So lastly, I could talk with you for hours. What is one piece of advice, if you could leave listeners with one thing today as they move forward on their day that is something that you think of on a regular basis that has helped inspire you?
Okay, I would say to ultimately believe in yourself first and foremost. People won't believe in you if you don't believe in yourself. And so that has allowed me to gain the confidence to even get my work just out in the world, to be judged or to be, any of that. So, but I think, just taking that initial step, you just got to go for it and believe in yourself.
I love that. Oh, thank you so much, Justine. This has been lovely, and I will tag where everyone can find you in the show notes, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
This show would not be possible without you, my incredible listeners. It would mean the world to me if you would subscribe to Celebrating Simple Life on Apple Podcasts or download and listen on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you choose to listen. If you really want to make my day, leave a review. These reviews, ratings, and sharing screenshots of podcast episodes that were engaging for you on your Instagram stories and tagging friends that you think should hear the episode too really helps the podcast grow. It makes me so happy that I often select reviews to read on the show, and if yours is chosen, you will receive a special gift from me. Thank you for being a part of my mission to connect stories of business and life. Cheers to Celebrating Simple Life.